Welcome to Clothing Culture. I'm Emily Lane.
I'm Brett Schnitker.
We speak with experts where we explore the global dynamics that shape trends in the fashion industry.
Brought to you by Stars Design Group, a global production and design house with over 30 years of industry experience.
Welcome back to another episode of Clothing Culture. Today, we are going to be talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, so important in any industry, but absolutely in the apparel industry, marketing.
And I'm excited because I get to ask the question because I really don't have the answer. That's the fun part.
Well, I think marketing is always important, but I think in this time where things are, consumer behaviors are dynamically changing, we've had a lot of people in the industry very invested in brick and mortar and are trying to find new ways to reach their audience, moving to more online environment. This is becoming a greater challenge, how to break through the noise and just how to stay relevant. So I think that this is a good subject we're tackling.
I agree.
Today.
You've summed it all up. I don't need to ask any questions now. No. In hanging with you and going through all of these things that you've mentioned personally for Stars Design Group, I've been amazed at again, I've been in the industry for a long time in the apparel industry, and a lot of things that I think are just easy because I've done it so much. It's an interesting take to look through your lens and understand kind of the aspects of marketing. And it just seems to be moving to rocket science, where I remember years ago, someone wanted me to get, into the printing business. And I was like, there's no way, I do all my decisions on my iPhone and my iPad. Why would I want to be in the printing business? So you just see this evolution that's occurred in the printing business. Is there a future in the printing business with so much noise online? Are you seeing anything happening in that regard?
In printing?
Yeah, in printing.
I think so, sure. I think that, it's people remain tactile. The apparel industry, it's a tactile business. Yeah. And I think the same thing is happening, in the world of marketing. I do think that people enjoy getting these gorgeous catalogs on beautiful paper with gorgeous imagery sent to their doors, and it gives people a way to connect with their audience and
That's
tell
one of the
story.
things I've seen change. It used to be printed on, toilet paper or rags,
Right.
and you'd barely be able to hold it together, And nowadays, they look like something you'd put on your coffee table or whatever. It's kind of
Right.
amazing. And I think taking a break from the electronics and being able to look back and tactically turn some pretty paper and look at great images, ultimately I guess we go online and order it anyway. That's the evolution.
Right.
But it's kind of wild. So let's talk about, how does one get through all the noise?
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to know the answer to that, right?
Yeah. I kind of want to maybe transition that conversation from this whole topic of printing, because I think that the same principles apply no matter if we're talking printing, if we're talking digital, no matter what the format is.
But the printing space dried up. You don't get junk mail anymore.
Right.
When you move to an online environment, you're bombarded. How does one weed through decisions on what engine to market on, and how do you get visibility?
I think regardless of the format in which you're marketing, I think it really comes down to your message and authenticity. Authenticity is on the rise. Hallelujah. People want to really connect with a brand that they're getting engaged with. If they're buying product or they're following, they want to know that the values are aligned and that they're telling a story that's true, that this isn't just we're not just throwing a sustainable message out there, but it's really an empty message.
So Mad Men is dead, is what you're trying to say. The
marketing world isn't as sexy as martinis in the afternoon,
right.
And coming up with the next bright idea. Yeah. Bright ideas might get you a like on Instagram, but
Okay.
that's about it. It's very important to connect with your audience in a real, true, authentic way. Make sure that you're consistent with that messaging, and whether you're printing a catalog and sending it to your client base, or you're putting images out there on social media, or you're doing some sort of email campaign, or you need to make sure that the message that you're delivering really connects with your audience. That's how you break through the noise. Everybody's getting the Black Friday deals,
Yeah. The junk mail via spam, really,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah. So staying true to who you are and really taking the time to map that out. I think that's a common problem that brands and new companies face, is they know what the product is they want to deliver, but they don't take the time to really explore how they're different in the market. What makes them unique? What is their DNA? What are the 10 words that really sum up their values? What are the words that really sum up their product and the differences? Taking the time to really dive into your mission and value statements, and really who your audience is, and putting that to words, and then embracing that in all of your efforts moving forward, is absolutely essential in crafting an authentic marketing strategy.
So, we've seen this ability online to deal direct to consumer. We're talking about this multi-channel approach where, in the old days, you'd take big advertisements out in the newspaper. I'm old, so I can talk about those days. And it would cost a ton of money to establish brand equity. Therefore, there weren't a ton of brands in the industry. Today, we're seeing this flourish of boutique brands. We've talked about it a couple times, because they feel like they have this direct access to the consumer. And you've talked about this authenticity of message, et cetera. So you have the authentic message, you have this great kind of niche you feel like is existing in the business. How and what choices do you make with other people that have that same kind of deal? How do you get through the competition? What platform, without
Okay,
plugging
yes.
particular platforms? I mean, is it that you post it and they will come?
No, I love
you
this
end up being
question.
page 1,500
Right.
of all these relevant stories. What's some advice that you can give or prepare people for as they kind of wade down this road with this authentic message?
You need to have realistic expectations about the fact that this is not an overnight thing, that there isn't that one genius who has that magic line, and boy, you run that one campaign in the newspaper once and everybody's going to come running to you. It's just like in the garment business. Just because you build a beautiful dress doesn't mean all the people are going to come storming in to buy that dress.
I certainly wouldn't. It wouldn't look good on me, but yeah.
But it's the same philosophy applies. I mean, you have to understand that it takes testing.
What do you mean testing?
So putting an ad out there alone isn't enough to convert.
Okay.
And so you really need a process of testing multiple messages.
Is this
testing multiple
A/B
ads.
testing thing you throw
Absolutely,
out?
it's A/B testing.
I like to sound intelligent sometimes, so I'm going to throw around
Yeah.
marketing phrases when you give them to me.
A/B split testing is really interesting. It's actually been a process that's been in place for well over 100 years. This brilliant marketer.
I didn't know the internet was around that long.
wasn't.
It was before the internet.
It actually started out in newspaper, as a callback to your statement earlier. So Cloud Hopkins, the writer of Scientific Advertising, learned that he could use advertising and the A/B split testing method. It was a much longer, slower approach in the days of newspaper, but he would take an ad and test it week after week to see how the results varied.
Wanted Jesse James 5,000, nothing happened, raised it to 10, and the guy's
All of a sudden
found.
he's found, right.
Got it, okay.
Actually, it was more coupons. It was coupons. So take, for example, a soap company, so he'd run an ad that would be, buy this soap, it'll make your skin feel soft and smooth.
Okay.
All right. And then, the ladies who would buy the soap would come and bring their coupon. And then they'd run another ad that would say, buy this soap and it'll make your skin glow and shine. So you would
Okay.
test different messages, use different images, and they would measure those results. How many coupons came back with this code versus that code? And from that, refine their message.
I really wanted glow and smooth, and that wasn't one of your choices.
Well, you just keep refining that message.
Got it. That's the C testing, I guess.
Right. Well, and the truth of it is that A/B split testing isn't we test these two things and then we're done. We get the one that gets the greatest response and then we stay there and we run with that. We take the one that was more successful, and then we divide that out and test yet other images and other taglines and other price points and you just keep constantly tweaking on those to get to improve your results. And, consumer behavior changes on an ongoing basis. So one message
Are you saying we're fickle?
a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So a message that works one week isn't going to necessarily work the next. Likewise, a message isn't going to work in one part of the country the same way that it will in another.
Gotcha.
So it is an ongoing testing process. And like you said, it's a science. You're constantly measuring the results of what you're doing.
So let's talk about support functions. It's kind of near and dear to our hearts lately. We've started to get involved a little bit in this influencer marketing. So tell the crowds out there, I'm sure there's crowds at this point. This is our, fourth episode? The crowds of 4. Tell them a little bit about how influencers can make a difference in this whole process that you're talking about in marketing. In my day, it was kind of like rock and roll singers and movie stars, but it's way different today.
It is. Influencers are the celebrity of advertising these days. It's true. And, I think that harkens back to a point that we were talking about earlier, authenticity. And so influencers have their audiences. They've connected, they have relationships with their audience, and they build their followings by, staying consistent in their message. They know who they are and the things that they're advocating for and the look and aesthetic of their brand. They are indeed a brand. And I think that by being consistent and being authentic with their audience, they build that loyalty. Well, now, if you can bring that audience base into your business, it just gives you the opportunity to, kind of reach a whole new audience in a fresh way. But you've got to make sure, if you are aligning yourself with an influencer, that you are selecting somebody that has a similar voice to yours, and that the message is indeed, again, I'm going to say it, authentic.
Yeah.
There are some campaigns that have happened out there where, we've got an influencer that's, got a huge following, 1 million+ followers, gets typically really good engagement, over 5%. Sometimes you see 10, sometimes you see 15%. That's extraordinary. And, you should be taking a look when you're going to be engaging an influencer at their engagement rates and so forth.
What's an engagement rate? What does that mean?
An engagement rate.
How many times they're looking to get married before they do, or?
It's more if an influencer puts a post out, how many people are actually liking and commenting on that post.
Okay.
And you want to kind of track that over a series of posts and over a recent dynamic, because things change. People fall in and out of favor. People make silly decisions, and sometimes that can compromise their audience or the loyalty of their audience. So you should be always kind of, when you're looking at them, kind of reviewing that. But it's pretty amazing when you look at campaigns that have worked really well versus ones that haven't. There's a campaign that was done for a certain mouthwash company that employed,
which will remain nameless till they give us
Exactly.
sponsorship. Yeah.
Exactly. And pairing this influencer that, again, on paper looked great. But this influencer had no experience.
And no teeth, probably.
That would be a problem.
Vet
No,
your influencer. Yeah.
right. Was in a completely different space, known for a completely different type of product. Her community was outraged because it seemed very inauthentic and
Hmm.
off-brand for her to be talking about fresh breath when
Right.
she's a makeup or beauty,
Yeah.
or actually it was fashion oriented.
And most of us embrace bad breath in fashion. So we're furious when there's mouthwash
Well, what's
involved. Yeah.
interesting is that she actually got death threats.
Wow.
Isn't that astounding? People are,
We live in a crazy world.
absolutely. So, meanwhile, there's other campaigns where you have that right partnership, and there's some Macy's, Nordstrom's, all these various companies have had successful collaborations with influencers where
Which they're not sponsoring us, and you help them.
well,
Good
it's
for you.
it's something to admire in
Yeah,
the
for
success
sure.
of
I
these
agree. Yeah.
campaigns, and they'll do a collaboration, 8, 10 styles, and those collections will nearly blow through overnight, if not with even in a couple of weeks. Well, that is a retailer's dream.
Yeah.
So finding the right influencer that again is on brand, you share values, an influencer that has a clear viewpoint is really, really important. And I think it is a really exciting marketing strategy and one that is not going away anytime soon. If anything, we're at the early stages of influencer marketing.
Interesting. So let's take a step back and let's talk about, when we talk to different burgeoning brands, right? This whole boutique brand economy. We talk about the importance of brand stewardship, to your point, the authenticity toward the brand, how important it is today, and the stage at which they achieve brand equity, right? People want to be part of their club, therefore kind of embrace their brand or logoing or whatever on their garments. I can see kind of these initial steps, and we've kind of just touched the surface on the science of marketing and engagement, et cetera. So they've gone down some of these paths. They've started to develop this community. They've got this whole brand equity growing. What's a way to build community, within their brand? How do they, once they've started to get traction, kind of like us, we're hoping for 5 people listening
for the
next week
next
instead of
episode,
4.
right.
But as we're building this whole community, or a brand is building this whole community, what are some marketing things to do when we're dealing with kind of an online space, or maybe not an
Right.
online space, an overall marketing view,
I
how to build community?
I think any company out there in today's climate needs to make sure their marketing infrastructure is in place first. You were talking about burgeoning brands and brands that are, pre-equity, and then how do we get that equity? Well, you've got to get a strong foundation in place to even get there. And so, everybody has to have a website. We know this.
Yeah.
But beyond a website, there are fundamentals to making a website really, truly work for you. A website isn't just a brochure. It is actually a selling tool for you. Not just a selling tool, but a community building tool as well. And so in order to make sure that that works the right way for you, you need some basics in place. You need a website that has at least 5 pages of content. And of content isn't just photos. Google can't see photos. It doesn't look at a photo and go, oh, this is a really beautiful dress made of this fabric, and it looks really fashionable and people are going to want it. You have to actually have the text that says, this
It's
is
a
a
beautiful
beautiful
dress.
dress. It's really fashionable and people want
Yeah.
it, and so you need content. You need 300 words on each page. That's just a starting place for Google to even say, this exists. Otherwise, you're not even on Google's radar.
It makes a ton of sense. I could only afford 4.5 pages, and
Right.
then you show up and I've got more than that. And
Now you can't even process all
yeah,
that,
we're
right?
beating them back from the door. Yeah.
So, fundamentals, that a website that has content, has pages, you need actual customized SEO. SEO
What does SEO mean?
I know, it is one of those.
I've heard of CEO,
COO,
CCO, COO,
CMO,
ABC. Yeah, what is
A/B
SEO?
testing. SEO,
Super excited object, or what?
search engine optimization.
Oh, okay.
And it is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot, and people really don't there's different explanations for it, but basically it's the process of making sure that Google can find your website when somebody is actually searching for what you offer. And there are ways to improve your chances at making sure Google recognizes that you're there. So very basic things are customized page titles and meta descriptions. So your page title is, everybody has the About Us page,
Sure.
the home page. Well, you need to go beyond in the description of that page, which is when you're like looking at your website on the very, very top of the screen, you'll see, at, Stars Design Group /home. That title up there, you have so much potential to add into that, clothing culture, a podcast about the global dynamics that shape trends in the fashion industry.
Sounds like a fascinating
right?
podcast, by the way.
So you customize those page titles to really tell Google what they're going to find on that page. Very important. It's kind of like sending up little flags to Google to say, hey, if somebody types this in, we're here, send them here.
Got it.
So that's important.
And you said meta
descriptions are when Google decides that you're worthy of that search and puts your name up into the queue.
Oh, honorable Google, right.
Okay. And you see, about right there, it gives you the option of the company. You'll see the title, Stars Design Group, and then below it there'll be a description. That description is the meta description. Often companies make the mistake of not customizing that and not making sure that it matches the page that follows. Common mistake. Because what happens is if somebody's like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I Googled, and then they click that link and it goes to a page and that information isn't there in that manner, people get confused, they go back. Google makes note of that. And it's like, okay, so now I'm not going to...
Slaps your hand or what?
It does.
Yeah, literally.
It does more than that.
Digitally, probably.
It does. It actually says, okay, well, that didn't work for that person. So next time somebody searches that information, I'm going to be less likely to pull it up in the queue.
So my mistake was 4.5 pages and have zero meta information at all.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That is a problem.
Got it.
There's other things that improve your SEO. So there's, having new content added onto your website regularly is very important, because every time you add new content, Google's like, oh, what's this? I gotta reread it. And I don't just have to read that. I gotta make sure I didn't miss anything. So it rereads your entire website, making it more relevant in the Google's mind.
How important is it to be on page one?
I mean, certainly doesn't hurt, does it?
No. I've always heard that.
Right. No, it is, it can be hard. It can be really hard.
And I guess you could be on page one with one definition of a search and page 100 with a different one.
This is why really being, getting good content out there, so that way it's less of a question on being page one when somebody's searching something. Because, if I was just going to search podcast, that's going to look at all of the various podcasts that are out there.
But if you search best podcast, we would probably be on page
fashion,
one.
And clothing, and the making, and the,
Right.
Then and I put that information on my website and I make sure the titles have that information. It's going to align with the search that happens, realistically more often than not. So that's why being very specific, having regular content is really important. When it comes to engaging your community and building your community, like you talked about, making sure that you have a good conversion system set up on your website.
Is that annoying thing that pops up that makes you put your email in?
That's one way to go about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. I mean, and I think it's a challenge.
To put your email in? Yeah, for me it is.
I
just want to get to the content. I keep hitting the X. It keeps popping up.
But you do want that discount, don't you?
Sometimes,
I mean, that's the challenge.
You're right. I do want the discount.
Of course. And so you have to be more clever than ever to convince people to give up their email addresses, because everybody gets 100, 200 spam emails a day.
Yeah.
So you need
And does that make, with 200-300 spam emails a day, does anybody really read all of those that come in? Is it worth it?
I mean, don't you read the ones you
No,
really want to read?
I don't.
I can tell you.
Intentionally, I don't. It's like a violent act against spam.
I go through, I probably delete 99% of the emails that come through. However, there are a couple that I look forward to.
Emily reads her spam. So anybody out there that wants to market to her, I'll give you her email after the
At the end of
after
the
the
show.
podcast, yeah.
You have to wait till the very end.
and you have to sign up and we'll give you a discount to the podcast too or something. It's already free, so
I think it's really important to be very caring, smart, authentic, clever, all of those things. And I know it can feel a bit like, I don't know, I know people have this icky feeling like, oh, I don't, words like conversion and consumer and audience and sale are, words that make people kind of cringe. But this is business
commerce.
we're talking about.
It's not
right,
our hobby, right?
exactly.
Yeah, right.
So, but in building community, you want to make sure that you're delivering something of value that makes them feel good about giving up your email address. It could be it could be the behind the scenes of the podcast video. It could be the here's top 5 tips on starting your own podcast, whatever it is. Give value. And then, my goodness, if you are going to be one of those marketers or companies that's sending out emails, again, make sure it's one that people look forward to, because I might delete 99% of those, but boy, there's a few that I read every time they come through because I know I'm going to like the content. So that's really important. Stay connected in the right way by delivering value.
Interesting. So I know nothing about marketing of these subjects, so I really don't even know the questions I'm asking you, honestly. I think a good way to round this out is there something I'm missing? Is there something that, you believe is something important for, the 4 people that are listening to us today to take away about marketing that I haven't brought up yet?
I think we really hit some of those core basics. You've got to have your infrastructure in place. Make sure you really have clarity on your brand, the voice of your brand, the messaging. Be consistent, stay real. These are all important things. There's always going to be new ways to market. Things are ever evolving. We went from newspapers to TV to now this online space. So making sure that you're taking a look at the trends. We're seeing TikTok has come in and out of the conversations recently, especially in the fashion industry.
Sure.
And so, always kind of exploring what's going to be around the corner and making sure that you're taking time to learn and A/B test in those in those new opportunities and see what works for you and measure the results. Don't just spend money doing some advertising without really taking a look at the metrics of it all, because within those numbers you can make better decisions about where to focus those marketing dollars.
I hope in future episodes we can talk about some of the technologies I've heard of that really I don't understand, RFID and some of these other things.
Sure.
But, as they invade our daily lives and get us to buy more stuff. But thanks a lot for spending the time. And
it's fun to be in the hot seat.
Yeah, it's great being in the question seat.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We offer some consulting in the marketing and apparel space, and we'd love to answer any questions that you have. And we look forward to having more conversations with you in upcoming episodes of Clothing Culture.